Hey there, I'm Lindsay Dreyer, host of the Joyfulpreneur podcast, where I share tips, tricks, and strategies to help women entrepreneurs maximize joy and freedom in their lives and businesses. Let's dive into today's episode. We're talking Instagram today and the hottest new trend, the 9 grid, with Deanna Seymour. Deanna is the host of the podcast Big Fun Content, as well as a marketer and a graphic designer, known for her bold designs and lively content creation. You'll definitely feel that in today's episode. Tell me about your journey to becoming the boss marketing queen.
Oh, well, first of all, I love that title. That's the first time anyone's ever called me that. So I feel like I'm getting like an Academy Award. This is my moment to shine. Let's see. My journey really started off as an art teacher. So I've been an art teacher for over a decade. I guess I always like lose track. I need to go look at like my resume or something and figure it out. But because I'm always like, I don't even know how many years. The years blend together when you're
they sure do.
I think 13 is my guess. So I just always say over 10. I don't think I can claim 15. The point is, in the art room, I feel like I have always been really creative. So obviously, like being a teacher, you're not making a lot of money. And you have summers off. So like side hustle is a thing for teachers. So I just had a million different side hustles, I feel like, over the years, because I also have ADHD. And it was like really hard for me to juggle both. And so I'd be really excited about something and have, breaks or time where I could work on it. And then maybe it would grow. Like some of them were kind of, I feel like by normal standards, like pretty successful. But then I'm like, I'm bored. Let me move on. But it's also really hard when you have a side hustle and a job. And if it gets kind of successful, you feel really busy in your side hustle, but it's not enough to quit your day job. And then you're like, oh, I can't keep doing everything. So there was a lot of that going on. And then I was like, oh, what if my job was helping other people like launch their cool ideas or like coming up, like I love logos and brand colors and like flushing out ideas, naming stuff. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. So I was like, oh, I can like live vicariously through my clients and keep doing this, except my job would stay the same. And I could just like live vicariously through them.
That is so fun.
Yeah, that's how I ended up here.
So question on how you're balancing it. So did you strictly take the marketing, branding, design work in the summers, or did you try to do teaching and the other side hustle while you're doing it?
Well, I started let me think. Okay, I was pregnant with my son in 2019. So starting that school year, like in the fall, okay. When I was pregnant with him, I think, so that would have been like the 2018, 2019 school year. Then I had him in August, and then I had to go back for the first time because when I had my daughter, I did take some time off, and I had just gotten married. We were one of those like get married in July, pregnant in August kind of couples. And I'm like, okay, let's dive right in. So I ended up like taking a year off from teaching. Fun fact, in the district I was in, you could take like a leave of absence if you had a medical reason. And so I was like anxiety and depression because this job is too much.
Yeah.
And so they said, okay, you can have a year off. And then I had my daughter and I didn't go back. Just like my husband had a lot of health stuff. So I had time off for her. The point is, when I had my son, I had to take him right to daycare at like 8 weeks old and leave him. And I was like, okay, well, I hate this. So I was like, I really need to step it up. So I started kind of gearing up that year. And then in March was COVID. So then we all went virtual. And lucky for me, I was the art teacher. So It was not very stressful for me at all because there was not like testing or, I feel like I felt really bad for my friends who taught at the school who were like the third grade teachers and the kindergarten teachers and all that. I was like the fun person who got to like pop into the Microsoft Teams meeting and like do a fun drawing lesson and be like, okay, bye. See you next week. Can't wait to see what you like finish your drawing and I'll see you next time. So I actually really streamlined that with videos. Like I recorded my own little videos for how they could draw, set up a website. And like, I feel like my principal and the other teachers were like, dang, she's good. But it made it so automated for me that a lot of times I would share my screen with my video on and be like writing emails. Like,
here's the lesson.
It was, I know. I was like, okay, here we go. Like one time, because I was using Loom and it's a circle, but it's a square when I would talk to them for real. Because I would be in the meetings, but then I would like share my my screen and my Loom video was me as a circle. And there was definitely like a first grader once who was like, why is that a circle, but this is a square, And one time I think someone was like, but your shirt's green and your shirt's like striped. Like, what? And I was like, shh, you're fine. No, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Like, so I was really only live for a little bit of the time. But some of my teacher friends said that they used the website when they, like the music teacher didn't come or was absent, they would just go on my site. So it was kind of also my intro into doing like short form videos and lots of that stuff. So those 2 years, like finishing a year and then I taught one more year virtually, really gave me sort of a head start. So I always feel a little guilty because I feel like the pandemic was obviously terrible and very hard for a lot of people. But like for me, I'm like, oof, that gave me just the like right amount to get it started. We weren't paying for daycare, like my kids were here, just like a lot of things lined up for me then. So I was able to ramp up this business. And it was still scary because I don't think I was like quite where I wanted to be when I stopped, but we were like close enough that I was like, okay, let's do it. So
That's great. So you just did it. You jumped in.
yeah,
I love
definitely.
it. So we're going to talk about Instagram today. I'm very excited about this topic. I want you to tell me more about the influencer trap.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's see. So I feel like it's hard. It's hard because you're putting yourself out there, right? And you want likes. Like I hate it if I put something out and I get like very few views, very few likes. You feel like a little bit like embarrassed.
Oh, it's
you're like,
brutal.
You're like, never mind. Let me like, you have to fight not to like go and delete it.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, I see other people showing up or I saw other people showing up and like talking as if they're talking to thousands of people. And you're like, you don't have thousands of followers. Like, it's almost like embarrassing. Like, you're like, what are you doing? You're acting like you're this. But in order to get to any sort of level, if you even need to, like, obviously we could talk about the difference between like an influencer's job is to make social media. So they're doing their job when they're on social media all day. But for me, my job is to create short form video and awesome graphics for people. So like when I'm on social media, I'm like not doing my job. I'm doing part of my job, but it cannot be 3 times a day, all day, every day, post stories throughout the day. Like it's just too much. And so I feel like there's this trap of you watching all these videos online of people teaching you how to be better at social media. And it's a hefty list of things you have to do. And then you have to realize that like, that's not your job. Like that's for people whose job is going to be on social media, to be an influencer. Like your job is your business, whatever that is. So you have to keep reminding yourself that that's not my job. Like it's my marketing, also it's just part of your marketing plan. I think sometimes we think like, oh gosh, we just have to be there all the time, like showing up, serving. And I'm like, when I talk to clients, I was doing these things called marketing maps for a while and trying to help people sort of whittle down where they wanted to focus. And all of those meetings were riddled with people just like soaked in shame, being like, I know I should be doing Pinterest. Like I should be posting more. I should. And I'm like, dude, I'm not here to like judge you. We're just talking about what you're doing.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, stop shooting all over yourself. People do it all the time in my coaching too, where we go through every marketing activity you're doing in your business. And if it's above the joy line, awesome. Joyful marketing, that's where you want to be. If it's below the joy line, stop doing it.
It's okay. Or like also just if you're not doing it and you don't want to do it, like that's okay. You don't have to do it. Like people are feeling guilty about things they're not even doing. Like they've just heard like Pinterest worked for one person and they're like, oh, I should be on Pinterest. So in almost all those conversations, a lot of the people I'll end with like, well, where do most of your clients come from? And it's like word of mouth, referrals. Like never once was someone like Instagram. Yep. All my clients come from Instagram or like Pinterest or blogs. People read my blog and then they just like click buy. Like it's not part of that. And all those things can be part of your marketing, like you were saying, if you enjoy them, but you certainly don't have to do all of them. Like I would recommend you not do all of them.
I think it gives people just when you focus on you don't even focus actually. When you adopt way too much marketing, you're not doing any of them well. And so it's like choose your 4 things or 3 things or 2 things, whatever you can commit to. You can always add more, but like do those things really, really well, like knock them out of the park, and then you can add more, because I think this is like an entrepreneur trap, which is I should do this, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. And then you're doing nothing well.
Yeah, well, it's hard too because I know in the beginning I was seeing people saying you don't have to do it all, but those people were also doing it all. So I was like, I don't believe you. Like, and it was like I was also when you first start, I feel like when you first start, you look to like the celebrity entrepreneurs to like, this is who I want to be. This is my goals. I want a lake house. I want that cool kitchen that she's filming all her reels in. Like, I want that. And so when they're saying like, focus on one, you're like, well, you're doing all of them and you have all that cool stuff. So I should do all of them because I also want all that cool stuff. So it's a little tricky.
I know, but they don't see where they started from. And I think that's everyone starts from the bottom. Nobody starts from the top. And so you build your foundation bit by bit by bit by bit. And eventually you'll get to a point where you can outsource like to somebody amazing like you, or you can hire staff. Like you can start getting people to come into your business. But if you don't do anything well, you're not going to outsource it well because they're not going to have any idea how to do it in a good way.
Well, and I think also we're all kind of like in a hurry when we start, which I was feeling that because as a teacher, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to sign my contract. So if I sign the contract, I'll be stuck for a whole nother year. So I was feeling really rushed and I was on like I was like, okay, I got to have a Facebook group because someone told me to have a Facebook group. I got to have Instagram. I got to go on TikTok. And like they were saying 3 times a day to post on TikTok. And I ended up like right before like quitting my teaching job, I got off all social media. And my poor husband was like, wait, you're going to help people with like marketing and social media, but you're going to quit all of them. You're going to get off everything. And I was like, yes, I can't take it anymore. And he was like, what? And I was like, I'm gonna go on podcasts. I like podcasts. I had a podcast at the time, my first podcast. That's like, didn't do it anymore. And I was like, I'm gonna go on podcasts. And I was out for 6 whole weeks of everything. And can I just tell you that like when I came back on, I only came back to Instagram. And now, a couple of years later, like LinkedIn sort of snuck in and now like TikTok kind of snuck in. I was like, oh, I can repurpose. So it's like creeping back in on me. And I'm like, no. I do really like Instagram. That's where I like to hang out. This like has always been my favorite platform.
Same.
I know they have ads, but they feel more seamless. Like Facebook is so ugly to me. I can't even with the ads so I know Instagram is similar to Facebook in that there are ads, but they don't seem as addy to me.
They aren't. Yeah. They're more integrated and sneaky.
I know. I'm like, now they just trick me into buying like Christmas sweatshirts I don't need. So yeah.
I'm like, ooh, another Joy sweatshirt. I definitely need one. I have like 20, but I need more.
Yeah. That's how they get you.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I do love Instagram.
So expounding on this message of simplification and doing less, which I really, really love, I have noticed on Instagram, and this is what we're here to talk about, 9 grids, 6 grids, whatever grids are becoming the trendy thing du jour. So can you break it down for us? We're gonna choose 9 today. What is the 9 grid?
Okay. Well, can I just throw in there first that I'm a 12 grid extra kind of girl?
Okay. Excellent.
I got a dirty dozen up on Instagram. Just kidding. But yes, I feel like the 9 grid is standard. That's what I usually make for clients. It feels, it's like a nice little 3x3 grid. So the idea is that you have 9 squares on Instagram that you put up and just leave up. I feel like it's the crock pot. You're like, set it and forget it. Here we go. This is what I am. I know. And then some of my clients, people who come to me,
they're my peeps.
Some of my peeps want to like focus on a whole different platform, like TikTok or LinkedIn, but people still go to Instagram to like check you out, stalk you a little bit. And so they wanted it to be like professional there and sort of tell people what they're doing and also point people to where they are. Cause like a lot of people have TikTok and Instagram. So if they're really interested, they can go over there. They can sign up for freebies. Like a lot of the Instagram 9 grids that I create are definitely pushing people to join your email list because then it's like yours and they're in your world and that's awesome. But it's just a way to sort of turn your Instagram into a sort of, some people call it a landing page. Some people call it a funnel. I like to think of it as your greatest hits, like a little mixtape. Yeah, and mine's a little different. The way I approach it is a little bit different because what I think is just like hit the people with what is most important to you. Like if they're only going to stay for a little bit, because it's social media, so they're not going to hang out for a long time, what are the like few things they need to know about you right away? Like, I always start with like an introduction post in the top left corner. And then like, what's next? Like, what do you do? You know, it's kind of like, also, if you think about your bio, I feel like we all struggle to get to like, was it like 140
Oh my
characters or something? Like,
gosh.
you're like, you're trying to like put an emoji or like
No.
an ampersand instead of and, because you can't, like, you're just trying to figure out how to shove so much in that bio. So now we have 9 posts to
Ooh.
say what we do, who we are, and who we serve, and how you can get more. So for some people, that means including like definitely something about your podcast. Other people who blog regularly, like, we want to highlight your blog and say how awesome that is, and like, go to my site and check it out. If you don't blog or have a podcast, I would recommend, if you're on podcasts, that we need to like showcase your authority.
Yes.
I always like struggle with that. I'm like, ugh, it sounds so like, look at me. But
Your
and it also reminds me of
expertise.
John Mellencamp.
It showcase your expertise.
Well, it shows off how cool you are. Like,
Yes.
people want to talk to you. So you're like, hey, look at me. I've been on some podcasts. I'm pretty cool. You should like me too. People like me. So like, I love doing a carousel post of different podcasts you've been on. What else? People have quizzes. You got to highlight that quiz, because I feel like you make the quiz and you talk about it when you first make it because you're excited, and then you just like forget to talk about your quiz again.
So where are you
Right?
linking all these things?
Well, okay. So this is like, gets into like a, like, I'm picturing like true crime. Like, I have a bulletin board and like all the
Yeah.
string and the pins, because we definitely talk about clicking the link in your bio, which means we have to get strategic about which links are in your bio and how that, like, what order do those go in. I like, mine is linked and it looks like the images, kind of like, you know, some like later or
Yes, like
tailwind,
later.
I think
Yeah.
it like, yeah. So I like that, because then they're like, it's pretty easy. Like, okay, I clicked on the link and now I see the post I was looking at, and that's really easy for me to click on. But yeah, you want to make sure that you're telling them where to go. Sometimes we say, check out my stories for more. So I also work with clients on how to make sure your highlights are really optimized to like, what do they need to know? Like, we're going to want to keep putting new client testimonials up there. We're going to want to keep putting like new projects you're working on, or new offer. You know, if like one person had workshops that came out every month. So we did a carousel of the ones she already had. And then we said, join the email list to know about new ones, and check the highlights for like updated, you know, things. So now people are sort of like, have things to click on, and it just makes it more like a little advent calendar. Like, you're like, surprise, what's behind this door? Like, oh, we can swipe through. Like, what's in this highlight? Oh, cool. And I think it really makes it more interactive and makes it more of like an experience when they land there.
Like a store.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a shop window. It's like I said, your greatest hits. It's like, here's everything I do. Here's all the things I'm awesome at. And then also, you don't have to post to your grid. Like, then you do not have to post to your grid anymore. So for me, I love Instagram. So I still show up on Reels when I can, but I don't feel stressed about it, because I know anybody who stumbles upon me, like, the grid is like telling them what I do. So I do Reels when I can, and I show up in stories when I can. And it has just really so much pressure. Like, one thing for me, writing captions is like not my favorite. I'll say that nicely. It's just not my favorite. So stories, I don't have to write captions, which is amazing. I just get to like post about what I'm working on. And in stories, when you tag people, 9 times out of 10, they like repost it. And so now you're exposed to their whole audience. So for me, I feel like when I tag somebody in a post, they will come and they will comment, and that's nice and like it. But if I tag them in a story, they share it to their stories. So now I'm in front of new eyeballs instead of just getting the comment in my post.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So this leads to my next question about this, which is, have you seen engagement go up or down, or what have you noticed since implementing the 9 grid? And when did you implement it?
My 9 grid, I just sent an email to my list that was like, my 9 grid's 8 months old. So I think September, would that be right? September? It's like, well, no, that's like, I don't know.
8 months. You got it. Yeah, 8 months.
8 months.
That's all right. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, oh my gosh, it's almost like to term baby. I don't know. I'm like weird as a mom. I'm like 9 months. Oh my gosh.
I know that sticks with us forever. I know. I'm like, I have had 3 9-month stints.
Oh,
I'm like, "Rah."
yes. I was like, whoa, real close to that 9-month mark. So yeah, after 8 months. So when I'm more active on Reels, like obviously my reach is pretty good. Like I'm not a huge data person, and I feel like you're going to jive with this because I just do what I like.
Yeah.
And I just try to be consistent at what I like. And I just trust that the universe is going to take care of me.
Yes.
That's just what I do.
Put your vibes out there. Manifest it.
Yeah, just
Woo!
manifesting good data and not checking on it. When I first started, I really went in hard on Reels. And also when I first posted it is when Instagram was like in love with Reels
Yes.
and saying like, we want you to do Reels. We don't care about posts. And then, a few months ago, they were like, just kidding. Now we like post again. And I was kind of like, for a second, I was like, oh gosh, now I should go back to posting posts. And I was like, I don't want to. I like this. But as far as data, whatever, however people say that, it used to be like all green. Like, when you click on your insights, there's like 3 numbers. It used to be all green. Now, if I'm consistent with Reels, at least 2 out of 3, and usually sometimes 3 out of 3 are still green. So to me, I'm like, I don't know if it's like up 2% or 200%,
Right.
but it's green. So I'm like, we're trending in the right direction. I'm not worried about it. The whole time, my followers has always been green. So I am consistently getting new followers. And of course, we don't know if this is correlated to my static 9 grid or not, but I am making more money. Like obviously my businesses, I'm getting better at my business. I'm getting clearer on my messaging. I'm doing all this stuff. So like, I'm still fairly new to business, like full time. So 8 months is like, whatever. I'm making more money, but I do kind of think it's because it's super clear what I do.
Right.
When people go there. Before, I would post a really funny Real Housewife GIF about, I would still talk about business, so it wasn't like completely left field, but I'd like put stuff up there that I thought was funny, talk about different things, but not really reminding people often of what I do. And I think that's because you're scared, like we're scared. We're supposed to serve, serve, serve. And so then we feel like, I don't think I'm supposed to be salesy. Like I'm not supposed to sell, but that can swing over into the area of like, you never talk about what you have to offer, which I think is kind of where I was. I was just like serving and being like, oh, this is fun. And they'll get to know me. And then maybe they'll work with me. But in my 9 grid, I'm like, well, this is all I'm going to post. So I better be clear about who I am and what I do, and still like in a fun way. And also like all the other content that you make, like I was saying before, linking to a blog or linking to a podcast or linking to whatever, your quiz, that's all serving too. Like we don't have to make all this content to serve. And then also all our social posts just serve. And we're like too scared to say, hey, here's what I do. Would you like to trade me some money for it?
Right.
like that gets lost sometimes, I think.
So I was thinking of an analogy. So I think like as you're talking, just posting the random stuff, like the smorgasbord of things that you're supposed to be posting in your feed. I was imagining us as like people on the street with a random stack of flyers about our business, and we're just handing them to people randomly walking by. Whereas 9 grid is like somebody intentionally walking into your store and they're already interested in what you're offering. And it's just a very clear way to merchandise what you have.
Yeah, definitely. And also like I'm like into analogies. So I'm like,
yes.
Plus with the flyers, it's like maybe only the 5th flyer selling.
Right.
So like the first 4 people are like, oh, okay, this is funny or this is cool.
Right.
But like, what? Why did that person give me this? Then the 5th person's like, oh, cool. Maybe I'll work with her. So and it would depend on like when people landed on my grid, like maybe it was a week where I was launching. So they were pretty clear on what I was doing. But if it was a week where I was like, thinking I was funny with my memes or my GIFs, then they were like, oh, I don't know who this is,
Yeah, or they're like, she's so funny, but it doesn't make them want to work with you necessarily.
Yeah, but what does she do?
Yeah,
exactly. And one other thing I'll say, which kind of sounds like I'm trying to pitch somebody for me to do their 9 grid, but
I'm sold, so don't worry about it.
Well, I think one important thing about my 9 grid or certain 9 grids that I see is that it's really cool. Like, right, mine's sort of like a puzzle. It fits together. It's very like when you get on my page, I think it's a little bit of a disruptor and you're like, whoa, what does this person do? Like this all is all connected. I need to like check this out. It like snaps them out of the normal scroll.
Mm-hmm.
And I know like years ago, people did like kind of those puzzle posts, and like Instagram in style is moving away from things being like perfect and whatever, which is fine. But I think because of that, they're used to seeing things, more real, a little rough around the edges and stuff. So when you do have something that's really cohesive and like a store window, like a, window shop,
Right.
people are like, whoa, hold up. What is that? What is this thing? Like, I need to see what this person's talking about. And so I think it kind of works with that. I have a whole soapbox a little bit about templates, because although they're time saving, I do think sometimes it makes you blend in too much. But, I've seen people like, now it's a thing, 9grid. So people are selling 9grid templates and stuff. But I'm like, when it looks too much like normal posts on Instagram, they just go and they're like, oh, okay, this is a person.
Yeah.
And they still might just read your bio. I think that the visuals need to like get their attention.
Yeah, they need to pop.
So,
you need to know what it's all about within a few seconds.
Yeah.
Story.
And the other thing I do is, sorry, is this okay?
Yeah.
Am I talking too much?
You're my guest. You're allowed to talk as much as you want. You shut me up. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was going to say too, when I help clients and write the captions with them or for them, we are very straightforward too about like what's going on. Because I think sometimes people could be like, did she just start this account? Like, why is there only 9 posts or 12 posts? So I feel like in the first caption, we're like, hey, we're over the hustle of this, or I like spending time making podcasts, or here's why I'm doing this. Like, here's what you can expect. And then that's where we lay out like, you better come find me on LinkedIn, or, check my stories and reels. I'll still be showing up here, or like, you better join my email list, because, there's like one client where where we were really careful to not say, send me a DM, or because she was like, I'm not going to check. Like, I'm literally piecing out after we do that. Like, once we put this up, I'll check it every once in a while. But so we just had to be careful to be like, if you want to talk to me, like, email me, click the link in my bio and email me, because she was not into it. She was not going back to Instagram. So I think it's important to kind of say what you're doing.
One of my favorite marketing gurus is Donald Miller of StoryBrand. And I went to their workshop, absolutely love it. But if it doesn't pass the caveman test, it's not good. And so I think this 9grid plays so well into that, which is if they don't understand, the caveman brain doesn't understand what you're doing within 3 seconds, they are done. Like, they're like, bye-bye, see you later.
That's funny too, because when I work with clients, I really like, I think you have to start by introducing yourself, but that caption also says like a lot about what you do. It's like your longer bio. And then sometimes clients are like, I don't know, I feel like, and they're still in that mindset of like, I feel like I have to serve, like, I don't know, should we come in hot with like what I do, talking more about what I do, or is that okay? And I'm like, look, we have to treat these like we could lose them at any moment. Like, all 9 are very important, but you have to think like, we better put this before this. It's like, I do think it's a lot like making a mixtape, like, for a boy you like or something. And you're like, you got to start off. Like, at my wedding, I was like a total psycho about at least the first few songs, it's like our first dance, obviously all the first dances, father, daughter, like those are really important. And then you're like, ooh, we're going to start with this. Like, we're going to be popping with this. And then we got to go to this. And then I was like, okay, after these like 3 songs, DJ, you can like do your thing that we paid you for. But I have a little vision for like what I really want to happen in the beginning. So I feel like we treat it like that.
I am obsessed with this. I love this idea. All right. So I have a question about, do we have to delete all of our other posts a la Taylor Swift?
You can. It depends. I did. I archived all my old posts. So the only thing up there is my 12. Some people do like a line across, like 3 across.
Interesting.
And then they keep their old ones, which is also okay. But here's a couple things I've learned through the process of doing these with people and seeing them around. If you're going to leave a line, I would definitely still look through all your old posts and sort of clean it up. Because again, since we're going with the mixtape analogy, we'll call this the B-side. Like, you still don't want random stuff, like an offer that you did that you're like, oh, I hated that, never doing that again. Like, take the time to at least archive the ones that don't really make sense with you anymore. If you changed your branding, if you know, if it's not relevant anymore, I would get it out of there. Like you were saying, the Donald Miller thing, like don't confuse them with like stuff. Now there's some people like Hello Audio has a 9 grid that I did not make, but they have archives because they have a lot of blog posts and they turn them into carousel posts. And it actually is an archive of things that would actually be relevant to people who are looking at Hello Audio's 9 grid. So that makes sense. And also on that bar, Hello Audios says, check out our archives below.
Cool.
And I think that's important too, because if you're saying like, hey, we went to a 9 grid, but like, here's some other cool resources, I think it makes sense. Just the like solid colors and then you just leave everything. I feel like you got to clean that up a little bit.
Right.
In
You
my
need to
opinion.
merchandise your store better.
Like that's like the back room and it, like, we can see that. We can see your, is that the employee did not close the curtain or somebody made fish back there. Like we got to close that.
I love that.
Too much.
You gotta clean it up.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So if you want to just completely quit Instagram, is this a way you can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that person that I was talking about that we were really careful to say, don't send her a DM, she owns a Pilates studio and she just wanted, she was like, people look at Instagram. I know they do. And it's a hot mess. I want them to go there and to see what I do and come take a Pilates lesson.
Right.
I want to hang out with people in real life. I want to do this thing, And I think she also has a membership, but she was like, I post a lot on YouTube and she helps other yoga teachers. So she was like, I'm already doing too much. Like I'm doing it on YouTube. I teach classes. I don't have the bandwidth to like keep up with this. So can we just put something up to tell them what I'm doing? And if they're interested, they can come find me. And I'm like, yes. So I do think Instagram is a place where people go to look, like stalk you.
Totally.
So
she's not doing reels. She's not doing stories. She just has her 9 grid.
Yep. She is out. And I think it's good too for LinkedIn. Like there's definitely people who are showing up on LinkedIn and that's where they want to show up. But I still think people check your Instagram. And especially if you already have an Instagram that is like sort of a hot mess right now. Like you're like, well, I don't know. I just stopped doing it. Like maybe you were barely doing it before and then you stopped and it's really confusing. Just to put something up. And maybe like I'm saying, maybe you could use a template for that if you wanted, like I'm all about being scrappy, but just something that says like, here's what I do. Here's where you can find me.
Okay. Yeah. Any other final thoughts about 9 grids? I feel like we covered a lot of ground today.
I do have one more.
Okay, please, I want your nuggets.
So if you're listening and you're like, okay, I kind of like this, but also that sounds really like scary to like archive stuff and just go all in. Like, your 3 pinned posts across the top.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a great way to sort of dip your toe in the pool.
Dip it in the water. Yes.
Yeah. Because it does let you extend your bio to those 3. So usually like I've helped clients do just those 3 too. And it's like, introduce yourself. So it's like who I am. And then the middle one is like what you do. And the last one is like, let's take it to the next level. Like you're going to get a little salesy in number 3, just to tell them like, here's what I do. Or you could put your blog or your podcast or, it's always different for everybody. But like I did one for one of my clients who's a keynote speaker. So it was like, hey, I'm Julie. Middle one. It's like her speaker reel. We put a video in that one so people can look and see her going on stage and talking. And the final one is like she has a book and a podcast. So it's like right away when people come to her page, they see like, oh, she's cool and she's a speaker. And we know she has a podcast and a thing. So even though we post her podcast every week on Wednesday, it's like that's just one episode. And so if they're not like jiving with that quote or that audiogram that we put up, like now it's at the top and it's like, I have a book and a podcast. And that's also serving, right? So it doesn't matter that right away in the second one, she was like, hey, book me, I'm a speaker. Because that's why she, that's like her business. You know what I mean? Like, it's just funny that we're so scared to be like, give me money. Because that's how we have a business. Just saying.
Don't be scared of sales. Actually, sales is one of my favorite things. So
is it? I'm medium. I'm warming up.
You have the personality for it. Are you kidding? You can sell ice to somebody in Antarctica. I know it.
Maybe.
I think you could.
I'll be like, yes, that's okay. You have a lot of ice around here.
But this is like gourmet ice. This is really good ice.
Yeah. I feel like my scrappy punk rock personality makes me feel like everyone can do everything. But I am learning that, like, obviously people have their own strengths. It's hard sometimes. Like, you think, oh, I'm a great designer, so like everybody can just do what I like. It's hard sometimes. You just think everybody can do what you can do. But I'm learning that's not true. Like, for me too, I'm like, oh yeah, I need help in my business.
It's so hard to ask for help, especially if you can do it yourself. Like, yeah, I've been graphic designing since I was 14. And so I can absolutely design. I know what I like. Like, I like being my own client. But there's sometimes I just need to get that off my plate. Like, I can't spend 6 hours in the design hole. It just doesn't make sense.
I know. I do feel like Canva, for some people, I feel like hate Canva and can't wait to hire me and like get out of Canva prison. And then I think some people use it also as like their safe space. They're like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. Let me just go in Canva and like make some graphics and cool my jets. Depending on what their real job is, it's probably not getting them any closer to like revenue. Like, they're either running from Canva or maybe sometimes hiding in Canva, I feel like.
Also, there are some people that actually don't belong in Canva at all. Or if they are and they like what they're making in there, that's great. I'm glad you're practicing. But some of that stuff should never see the light of day. Yeah.
It's your rough draft.
Yeah, that is a very rough draft. You need to hire a designer. What is one book that changed your life?
Oh my gosh. You got me right in the middle of Critter Club with my first grader. I'm like, oh my God, is it when Marion got the tarantula or like the guinea pigs? What are we going to talk about? Critter Club. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me think for real. Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm the person who comes to Book Swap and just makes jokes about how I don't know how to read and I never do, because I one time brought us weekly magazines to Book Swap because I just feel like with a 4-year-old, like almost 4-year-old and 7-year-old, I don't read.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just look at my bookshelf.
Oh my gosh, you're hilarious.
I don't know. I've like read very few of those on there.
Do you have a podcast that you absolutely love?
Let me see. I do really like my friend Emily Aborn has a podcast called She Built This.
Oh, I'm neighbors with Emily.
Are you?
I'm the next town over from her.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, Emily's great. She Built This is great. And I do listen to that podcast. And
she's a gem, and her podcast is wonderful.
I know.
All right. What is your key to living joyful entrepreneurship?
I guess not reading. Just kidding.
I love that.
No, just kidding. What is my key? I mean, my key is that I feel like I'm always experimenting, and I call it experimenting because it feels better to me than like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing and I'm just going to like fail in front of everyone. Like, everybody talks about growth mindset, but it's really scary to fail. And especially in front of people, like, it's very vulnerable to be like, I'm launching this thing. Okay, cool. Nobody signed up or whatever. So I treat a lot of my stuff as experiments. And I think that has freed me up in my mind to do whatever I want in my business, and then just be like, oh, it was experiment.
It's your mad science lab.
Yeah. But that's how you figure out what's working. So.
Oh, 100%. And I really do believe there is no failure in entrepreneurship, because you learn so much about yourself and things. And for everything that I thought I failed at, I got something out of it. Whether it was, I never want to do that again, or here's a different way I could do this, or moving forward. So yeah, I think we're just so hard on ourselves.
Yeah. So much harder on yourselves, I feel like, than you would be on a friend. You'd be like, that's totally fine. Think about like all the things you just said make complete sense. But when you're going through it, you're like, oh, I'm a loser. So shifting that for myself was awesome.
Well, I love that.
That's good for pricing too, right?
Yes.
Just like experiment. You're like, experimental offer. Like, here's how much, I don't know what it's going to be later, because you got to experiment. And then you price it too low. And then you're like, all mad and resentful while you're making it. And you're like, well, that was an experiment. Next time it's going to be more money.
And I listened to myself. I felt resentment, which means that was not enough. So there you go.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is, what is your Instagram? Because everyone's going to want to see it after this.
It's the Deanna Seymour.
Okay, perfect. We'll have it in the show notes. And then anywhere else you want to send people to find you and stalk you and look at all your goodies.
I mean, just my website, which is deannaseymour.com. And that has all my stuff, my podcast, my blog. I experimented with turning my regular emails into what I call essays on my blog.
Fun.
Because I was like, these just get shot out into the world and no one sees them again. And I really like them. So I'm putting them on there.
You're such a marketer. You're just changing the name of everything. You're like, experiments, essays.
Like, put it in quotes. Oh, it's an essay. I feel like other people write essays that are like very research-based. And I'm like, here's how I feel about the new movie Cocaine Bear. I'm like, here's my thoughts on that. What do you think? So
that sounds like a good essay topic. I'm into that. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your genius with us. This was so fun. I'm ready to do a 9 grid.
Do it. I'm excited to see it. If anybody does a 9 grid, please tag me, share it, show me. I would love to see it.
Before I let you go, I wanted to let you know that I have a 5-day Spark Joy Challenge, and it is totally free, available on my website. You can go to joyfulpreneur.link/podcast. The link is also in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to the Joyfulpreneur podcast. Remember to check the show notes for all the links and resources mentioned in this episode. Your reviews also mean the world to me. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Until next time, stay joyful.